What the hell is up, everybody? Louis back here again for the rematch, UFC 286 in London. Leon Rocky Edwards defending his welterweight title against Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare, Usman. Usman's my favorite fighter. I've been waiting for a long time for this redemption. Should be a classic. Is Leon the new king, or is Kamaru going to take his crown back? The co-main, you got Justin the Highlight Gaethje taking on Rafael Fiziev at 155. I hope you like violence. That's probably for the next contender right there, or it's a title eliminator. That whoever wins that fight is going to be a big deal at 155. And then my most anticipated matchup, Marvin the Italian Dream Vettori taking on Roman the Caucasian Dolidze. I mean, Dolidze is just on a roll. If he beats Marvin Vettori, he's the next title contender. No two ways about it. Can't wait. And then you got Muhammad Mokaev continuing his trail of destruction at flyweight. But 15 fights, a ton. Let's get into it. First fight of the night, 125 pounds, women's flyweight. You got Juliana the Killer Miller, the tough winner, taking on Veronica Machado Hardy, coming off a 3-year-long layoff. Should be interesting. Miller took on Brogan Walker in the tough finale. First round, she landed an overhand and a jab, gets a body lock trip into half guard, then transition, then goes to full guard, lands some ground and pound. Not a ton, focuses on keeping position. Second round, she jabs at range, but she gets countered with the 1-2. But then she gets clinched, but she's able to get the body lock trip, pummel through the clinch. And then she's able to escape the leg lock, and then she takes her back. Tries to go for a rear naked choke, has a decent attempt in there, so solid submission attempt. Third round, she steps out of the pocket, she's able to land a jab, landed a 1-2 off of her cross, and then she eats some hooks when she's clinching, but she's able to get the outside trip into mount, land some nasty elbows, TKO ground and pound. She's vicious. She's new, she's green, but she's vicious, and I liked what I saw. Veronica Machado Hardy, she took on Bea Malecki in 2020. And this was up a weight class at 135, I believe, so didn't go her way. First round, she circles outside, lands some 1-2s. She lands an overhand blitz, though. But then she starts getting walked down. She eats some jabs, and her throws some combinations, but they're too short. Then in the second round, she lands an overhand to a single, goes and then gets the clinch. But then she gets pancaked, and she's just getting a little reckless with her shots, getting a little tired, shooting too far out. And then she walks into some jabs and crosses and some front kicks. She gets kept off at range with those, and then she gets pancaked off of a double attempt into mount, and she eats some ground and pound, and then she dives for a low single, gets pancaked. Very poor takedown attempt in my opinion. Then in the third round, she gets pushed down for back. She gets pushed down, diving for legs, and then she dives on the legs. Gets hit with a back kick, and then she lands a big right and a left hook at range, though, so she's getting a little scrappy. She knows she has to win. And then she lands some hooks in the clinch and in the pocket, but then she eats some in return, and it's kind of a firefight. I thought the third round was close, but they ended up giving it to Bea. Bea was a lot bigger, though, so... Veronica, plus 350. Juliana Miller, minus 435. I don't know. Veronica has a 3-year-long layoff, and... first fight of the night, and typically the favorite wins for some reason. And I think Juliana grappling is superior. I think, Veronica might be able to light her up on the feet, but I think if Miller can just throw some overhands, get to the clinch, get the trip, take her down, I think she can ride her out for 3 rounds, might be able to get a finish, might be able to beat her up. This is a very stupid bet. I'm going to tell you to put your money on Veronica Machado Hardy. She's plus 350. My official pick is going to be Juliana Killer Miller, though. Do not bet this fight unless you're going to bet Verona, but I'm going to go with Juliana Miller. Okay. Second fight of the night, 155 pounds, men's lightweight. You got Jai Herbert taking on Ludovic Klein. Jai Herbert took on Kyle Nelson his last fight. In the first round, his body kick gets caught, but he's able to defend the single, and he has a whizzer. And then he's able to reverse the clinch, but... not too much going on in this fight, honestly. Then the second round, he lands some counter jabs, and then he lands some body kicks and some leg kicks at range, and then he's able to control the clinch on the fence, but then he lands some overhands and some jabs kind of at range. Third round, he pancakes home off the double, and then he shoots, and then he's able to transition into half guard. And doesn't do a whole lot the whole fight, but he was coming off a vicious knockout by Ilia Topuria, so I can kind of see why that you know, why he was cautious this fight, but not a lot of info to go off of. Ludovic Klein, he took on Mason Jones. Last time they were in London. In the first round, he gets clinched to the fence, but he's able to break off with his elbow, but then he eats a cross. But then he lands a head kick at range, whatever. He gets pressed, and then he lands a jumping head kick, jumps up in the air, kicks him in the head. Very fun stuff to watch, ninja stuff. Then in the second round, he drops him with the left and right hooks. Whenever he gets rushed, and then he gets clinched, but he's able to pummel out, and he's able to defend the double leg attempt. But then he eats a clinch. Somebody's in the clinch, but then he's able to stuff the wizard kick attempt, and he's able to get around and take his back. Very good mat awareness there for him, and he's able to use the position, go get into a dominant back position. Then in the third round, he's able to get on top, and he defends a triangle guard pull from Mason Jones, the worst IQ move ever. First 30 seconds of the third round, he pulls triangle, so very good on him for defending that. But then he's able to get his back. He tries to go for the backpack, and just kind of hangs on him on the feet for the rest of the fight. Pretty big upset for him at the time. Ludovic Klein minus 195, Jai Herbert plus 165. I'm going to go with Ludovic Klein. Price is a little steep. Jai Herbert, I think he's gun shy. Still, not that long ago, he got knocked out. Ludovic Klein's got some power. He dropped Mason Jones, and I think Ludovic Klein can get it done. I think he'll be able to grapple him. I think he might be able to find his back, but who knows? Maybe Jai Herbert is refreshed in this fight, and he comes out less cautious and wants to knock out Ludovic. Who knows? But from the tape I watched, I just felt really comfortable with Ludovic. I'm going to go with Ludovic Klein here. Third fight of the night at 125 pounds, women's flyweight. Joanne Wood now taking on the Wanda Carolina. Joanne Wood, she really needs a win, coming off 4 losses in a row. All to elite competition, though. She took on Alexa Grasso her last fight, so that tells you something. This was last March. In the first round, she presses with some front kicks, but then she eats some hooks, and then she just kind of pulls guard for no reason, so I thought that was dumb. And then she's walks into some head kicks, and she throws some combinations, but Alexa's able to circle out. Doesn't really land too much. Then she throws double jabs and a front kick, and then she lands a back fist, but then she gets drugged down from that poor mistake, and she gets submitted with a rear naked choke. She didn't need to go for that back fist, and she went for it, and it cost her dearly. Kind of like with Valentina. Alexa Grasso chokes people out off of back fists or back kicks. And then Luana Carolina, she took on Marlon McCann her last fight. Again, this is like about a year ago. In the first round, she gets pressed and rocked with an overhand on the fence, and then she eats a flurry, and she tries to start throwing some crosses and find her jab, but then she just gets clinched to the fence. Molly's doing a good job of crowding her. Then in the second round, she walks forward with a body flurry to the body, but then she gets doubled off of the fence. Sorry, she gets backed up with a flurry to the body. Molly McCann starts ripping the body, and then she gets taken down off of the fence. But then back on the feet, she's able to work her way up, and then she lands an elbow, and then with the overhook clinch, but doesn't do a ton of damage. Then in the third round, she lands some body kicks, but then she gets clinched, but she's able to reverse that position. Back on her feet, she stalks forward more, throws some 1-2s, but then she eats some hooks and a body kick. Her body kick gets caught, and then she gets KO'd with a spinning back elbow, so tough one for her, but just not a whole lot of activity. She just kind of swings wild in the pocket. Luana Carolina plus 155, Joanne Wood minus 180. I'm going to go with Joanne Wood here. She's fought extremely high quality competition, like the top 5 of the division at the time she fought them. Luana Carolina, she got knocked out by Marlon McCann, and she hasn't a year ago. Joanne Wood got beat by Alexa Grasso a year ago, just off of that, and the line's not too bad. I think Joanne Wood will be able to find a clinch or some kind of takedown and just beat up and just work Luana on the ground. I think so. Maybe find a submission, but I'm going to go with Joanne Wood here, money line. Featured fight of the early prelims, 125 pounds, men's flyweight. Jake Hadley taking on Malcolm X Gordon. Should be a fun one. Both guys, very scrappy, very fast. They're flyweights. Jake Hadley took on Carlos Candelario his last fight. First round, he lands some 1-2s and jabs at range, but he comes into the pocket, and he looks for an overhand over top of Candelario's jabs, and he lands some leg kicks, but then he eats some jabs in return, kind of going back and forth. But then he jabs and starts ripping the body, which I really like to see out of everybody. In second round, he pummels in the clinch, and he pressures toward the fence, and he starts ripping the body more, but then he gets taken down with a single off of his hook, but then he's able to get the triangle on the bottom, and then he lands some nasty ass elbows from the triangle position, switches over to the armbar, gets the submission. Well done. Well done. It was very violent, and he was moving the whole time. He was fighting the entire time, even when he got taken down. Malcolm X Gordon took on Muhammad Mokaev his last fight. Not too much here. I'm going to go over to the first round. He just rushes and he lands a right hook, but then he eats a jump knee and a head kick, and he gets doubled off the fence. And he scrambles through the guillotines, but then he ends up in full guard. But he was able to stay out of danger for the most part against Mokaev, except for the last minute. Then in the second round, he eats a side head kick, but then he rushes forward and he lands a lead hook, but then he gets taken out with the double. But before that, he took on Denis Bidnar, and he's less of a grappler than Muhammad Mokaev is. And I think Jake Hadley, he's not the super wrestle heavy. In the first round, he lands some double jabs and a cross, which rocks him. And he rocks him with the hook, but then he gets doubled, and he tries to go for the arm bar, and he gets up, and then he wizard kicks him over, and then Denis breaks his shoulder or something, and Malcolm gets the win by Doctor TKO stoppage, so that was interesting. But Malcolm looked good in the first round, had a lot of tenacity. Malcolm Gordon plus 320, Jake Hadley minus 390. I don't like the price. I'm going to go with Jake Hadley. I think Jake Hadley's going to be able to take Malcolm Gordon down. He's not getting super wrestle heavy, but I think he'll be able to land the harder shots. I think Malcolm Gordon can scramble decently, but I think Jake Hadley's just going to beat him up. Basically, I like his body shots. And, I just think he'll outmuscle Malcolm Gordon, and I was honestly never really too high on Malcolm Gordon. He had an impressive showing against Muhammad, but he ultimately ended up getting submitted, so yeah, Jake Hadley minus 390, flyweight fight, the whole fight to go under 1.5 rounds, plus 110, don't hate it. Lock it in, Jake Hadley. All right. Co-main event of the early prelims at 185 pounds, men's middleweight. You got Christian Leroy Duncan making his UFC debut, taking on Dusko Todorovic. Okay, I hope I said that right. Christian, he took on Marian Dimitrov his last fight. In the first round, Christian making his UFC debut. He lands a spin head kick, but he eats some hooks, and he retreats from there to not take any more damage. But then he gets pressed to the fence and gets clipped with the cross, and he misses his hook, but he's able to defend the double leg pretty well. Then he eats some lead hooks at range, and he clinches, but he misses the uppercut, but then he's able to land the back fist, and then lands a cross, and then a left and right hook, and gets the KO. So, just, wild, scrappy guy, hung in there, set up something with a missed uppercut. So, it's pretty inventive. And then Dusko Todorovic, he took on Jordan Wright his last fight. In the first round, he gets doubled off the fence, and he tries to go for the heel hook, but then he eats some ground and pound from the back, so not a smart move from him, very low IQ. But then in the second round, he starts jabbing in the pocket, and he lands some knees in the clinch, and then some body hooks. And then he just backs up and he starts looking for some hooks in the pocket. But then he's able to stuff the single leg attempt, and he's able to take his back, land some nice ground and pound, but he's not able to hold him there very long, but that's okay. Then he just kind of lands some more hooks, chasing him down, and then he starts ripping the body, and then the head, lands some hooks in the clinch, and then some knees to the head, and then he puts him into the front headlock position, and then he's able to get to his back mount, ground and pound TKO. So he just kind of rode out the first round. Jordan Wright very explosive in the first round, and then he was able to use his wrestling to get the knockout, or TKO. Dusko plus 185, Christian Leroy minus 215. I've always had a problem with Dusko. I think he's chinny, and Christian, he looks like he can bang in the pocket with anybody. I just got a feeling. I'm going to go with Christian Leroy Duncan here, Dusko. And I think Christian can jump on him in the first round. I really do. I think it's going to be a firefight, but I just kind of like Christian here. I don't love the price, but it is what it is. I'm going to go with Christian Leroy Duncan on this one. Main event of the early prelims at 145 pounds, men's featherweight. You got Lerone Murphy making his 16th month return, taking on UFC newcomer Gabriel Santos. He last fought in LFA, or Cage Warriors, sorry. But he fought outside the promotion, making his UFC debut. Lerone Murphy, he took on Makwan Amirkhani in 2021. In the first round, he gets blast doubled from range. And then he gets one one hook put in on him, but he's able to stand up. But then he keeps getting mat returned. But he's working, but he's kind of just chilling. He's setting up. Because in the second round, he lands a huge knee off the blast double. He stayed perfectly at range. He knew that's what Makwan was going to do. Lands a jump knee and knocks him the fuck out. So, say what you will about the first round, but superior intellect, that guy. And Gabriel Santos, he took on Jose Mauro Delano. In the first round, he gets clinched, but then he breaks off and he lands an uppercut and he's stalking him at range. And then he misses the cross, but he stuffs the double against the fence. Second round, he stuffs a single and he lands some leg kicks and some left crosses, getting into an exchange there. And then he eats a straight right counter off of his cross, though. But then he's able to land a lunge left cross, gets one hit in toward the end there. Then in the third round, he gets pressured with some straight shots in the pocket, but then he's able to get space, and he lands a left cross and a lead hook, and then a 1-2, and he's able to get the pancake, get on top of him whenever he shoots a sloppy double, and then they get back on the feet, and he lands a straight right and a left hook to the body, gets the KO. So I like seeing that body work. That was pretty impressive. Gabriel Santos plus 150, Lerone Murphy minus 175. I don't know, man. Like, you probably should bet on Gabriel Santos, but he's coming in short notice, and like Lerone Murphy, I don't like layoffs, period. Like, 16 months is a long time, but I just think the guy's explosive. He can find the knockout shot. Gabriel Santos might be a little gassed. Lerone Murphy's fought better competition than Santos. Take that for what you will. I don't really like the line, but I just got a feeling about Lerone Murphy. They're in his hometown. I feel like he gets it done. I'm going to go with Lerone Murphy here, but we'll see, man. First fight on the regular prelims, 125 pounds, men's flyweight, Mohammed the Punisher Mokaev looking on to carry on his destruction, taking on Jafiel Filho, coming off the Contender Series. Should be interesting. Mohammed took on Malcolm Gordon his last fight. First round, he gets rushed and eats overhand, but he's able to land a jump knee and a head kick. Then he gets the double off the fence, tries 2 guillotines. Can't get them, but he's able to end up in half guard through a whizzer scramble. So, good scramble ability. Second round, he lands a side head kick, but then he eats a blitz, but he's able to get the double, and he defends the Granby attempt, gets into half guard, but then he gets swept. And he tries to go for the triangle, but then he gets his back taken right at the end there. So, tough one, but he's scrambling, he's trying. Then in the third round, he gets a double off of the blitz by Malcolm. And then he gets reversed from the Merkel body lock position, and he gets mat return, and he gives up his back, but he's able to roll through. Instead of giving his back's on the mat, and he gives up full guard. But then he's able to get in on single from the half guard position. Then he's able to slide. Then he slides off the back, and then he goes for the reverses, gets on the back, but then he's about to slide off, but then he pulls out armbar, gets an armbar submission with less than a minute left to go. So I like seeing that. He experienced some adversity I don't think a lot of people expected, but he was able to scramble through a lot of his positions. And then Jafiel, he took on Roybert Echeverria on the Contender Series. In the first round, he gets a body lock on the fence. Then he gets a mat return, but then he gets reversed, but he gets up to the body lock, and then he gets the mat return into the figure 4, gets the backpack position, gets a rear naked choke attempt onto the mat, and then he's able to get the back mount. But before he can land any damage, he gets reversed from that position to end the round, but, still pretty dominant. And then in the second round, he gets dropped with the right cross when he's throwing his kick, and then he throws the right cross, but he's able to land the left hook, and then lands a leg kick, and then he gets a snatch single, transitions around the back, gets the mat return, and then he scrambles through the leg lock position. He tries to go for the heel hook, doesn't get it. But then he's able to land a clean 1-2 at range to end the round strong. Then in the third round, he lands a leg kick and a lead left uppercut, but then he gets wobbled with the leg kick, just kind of standing there. Then he eats a head kick and he presses with a straight right and then a left hook, gets the TKO, just kind of swarms on him and finishes the job. So I like seeing that. A little bit of adversity. Jafiel plus 600, Mohammed minus 850. I'm just going to go with Mohammed here. The price is ridiculous, but just for the fact that Jafiel is coming off the Contender Series, I think Mohammed's going to be able to get those takedowns. I just wish Mohammed would use more ground and pound on the ground instead of just searching for submissions. Like, he needs to beat him up a little bit, but, it is what it is. And, Mohammed, decent on the feet. He can land those he can land those head kicks, and Roybert took some damage his last fight. So I'm just going to roll with Mohammed here. That price is insane, though. I like Mohammed by submission. He pulled the one from Malcolm Gordon out with less than a minute to go. I think this guy's lesser competition than Malcolm Gordon. I think he can get it done. Plus 110, it's worth the shot. Flyweight, under 2.5 rounds, minus 140. I like that as well. Second fight on the regular prelims, 155 pounds, men's lightweight. You got Sam Patterson making his UFC debut, taking on Yanal Ashmaus, also making his UFC debut, coming off the PFL. Patterson off the Contender Series. Patterson took on Vinicius Sensi in the first round. He's in the pocket. He eats a 1-2 in the knee to the body, but then he's able to get the clinch. But then he eats multiple overhand lefts, and then he gets dropped from that. But scrappy guy. Then he eats a step left in hook, but then he lands some leg kicks in return, and then he lands a short right hook in the pocket, and then he's able to circle out so he's not getting hit. Starts sticking and moving, and then he gets back tripped off the fence though, and he goes up his back, but then he's able to slide him off at the end there, so you like seeing him battle out of that position. Then the second round, he eats a left hook off of his right cross though, but then he sprawls and he lands an uppercut on the ground, and then he goes from the darce, uses that to get into side control, and then he's in half guard, and he goes for the guillotine, and then he's able to take his back, just keeps on. I like the chain wrestling from him, excuse me. And then he's able to get his back, get the rear naked choke submission, puts both hooks in, locks it up, man. Had some adversity in the first round, but he was able to find his position in the second round. And then Yanal, he took on Dennis Hughes Jr. in the PFL Contender Series, his last fight. In the first round, he lands a short jab, but then he gets clinched and taken down on the fence. But then he gets right up, he has the whizzer, and then he's able to get the inside trip takedown. Then back on the feet, he lands a head kick at range and then starts landing some lead hooks, but doesn't really do a whole lot on the ground. Then in the second round, he has his back to the fence, and then he ducks under the hook. He gets the inside trip, lands some ground and pound at full guard. Nothing crazy, just kind of maintains positions, wants to secure the round. Then in the third round, he lands some leg kicks, and he's able to sidestep around the clinch to the fence, and he starts landing some short hooks. But then he eats a jab when he's coming in, though, get a little too careless. But then he wings some hooks and he misses and he gets pressured a bit. But then he's able to get the body lock trip yet again. And then back on the feet again, he gets a blast double at the end there. So he's decent in those clinch positions and those trips, but doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Yanal plus 230 and Sam Patterson minus 275. I don't like all the damage that Sam Patterson took, but Yanal is more of a wrestler first, and I think Patterson will be okay in the first round. I think he'll be able to stuff some of these takedowns, and I think Patterson's going to be dealing out the damage. Yanal just has trouble getting going at times. He looks like he wants to secure the rounds. Tough one. The line's a little pretty wide, but you just got to hope that Patterson's crazy enough to get a knockout or something. I think he can get a knockout, but I'm going to just go Patterson money line just because... Sam Patterson, I think, will get it done. I think he'll do some damage to Yanal. Co-main event of the regular prelims. Yes, it is. Chris Duncan making his debut off Dana White Contender Series, the second Duncan on this card, taking on Omar Morales, established UFC fighter. Duncan took on Charlie Campbell in the Contender Series. In the first round, he gets dropped with the hook when he's coming in with his knee. And he eats a head kick, but then he's able to circle back out of range. But then his hook is too short, but then he's able to land a leg kick on the follow-up. Then he eats an uppercut when he's going into the pocket with his hands down. He gets dropped with a check left hook, shoots a couple desperate doubles too far out. They get stuffed, and he gets rocked with another uppercut. But then he's able to land the right cross with his back to the fence, gets a KO. Nothing's lucky in this sport, but it was a lucky punch if I've ever seen one. He was getting beat up. The dude's just pressuring with his hands down, right cross, knocks him the fuck out of nowhere. You know, I just didn't think he looked good before that, man. He was getting beat up, couldn't get a double leg. But Omar Morales, he took on Uros Medic, his last fight in the UFC. In the first round, he lands a right cross off of his jab at range, and then he lands an overhand right off of Uros' jab. But then he stalks and he throws some looping hooks. They're a little too short, though. But then he steps in the pocket, he rips the body in a low stance, and then he lands a wild blitz, but then he eats a left hook for his trouble. But then in the second round, he's able to duck the straight shots, and he lands an overhand, stalking forward. But then he walks into some jabs and some straights, but he's okay. They're kind of skimming him. He's blocking some of it. And then he lands a 1-2, a short 1-2, and then he's able to land a head kick right in succession. But then he gets dropped with the left hook, and then he eats two more, and then he gets knocked out. So... yeah, I don't know. Omar Morales plus 230, Chris Duncan minus 275. I'm going to go with Omar Morales. He's had UFC experience. He's a little lower level, but Chris Duncan minus 275 off the Contender Series. Whenever he was getting beat up, he got rocked. He got dropped multiple times, and then he lands one punch. Yeah, Chris Duncan has vicious knockout power. I'm sure Omar is going to be aware of that. And I think Omar is going to be able to stay at bay. What happens when Chris Duncan gets out of the first round, you know, and he's got some losses a couple fights ago. Plus 230. I'm going to go throw Omar Morales on this one. No brainer. Main event of the prelims, 145 pounds, men's featherweight, Jack the Tank Shore taking on Makwan Amirkhani. Jack Shore moving up from 135 his last fight. Took on Ricky Simone. First round he eats 1-2 at range and then a straight right. And then he gets ducked and he gets blast doubled. But then he lands a right. But he gets right back up inside the clinch. But then he lands a head kick whenever he gets pressed. And he hits a body shot and then he gets clinched to the fence. But then he lands a 1-2, but then gets clinched. And then he lands a jab at range. Then in the second round, he lands an overhand. He shoots the double, which gets stuffed, and then he gets clinched. But then he lands some hooks to the body, and then he gets the double on the fence. He gives up his back, though, and he gets drugged down. And then he gets up, but then he gets doubled again because Simone can wrestle. And then he gets dropped with the right cross when he's throwing his 1-2. And then he gets submitted with the arm triangle. Tough situation for the guy. And then Makwan Amirkhani took on Jonathan Pierce his last fight. In the first round, he ducks the hooks, and then he shoots a single, but then he eats elbows. And he finishes the double to the back. He's in like a sort of a crab sit situation. Goes to the front headlock, tries to go for the Dars, can't get it. But then he shoots the double, but it gets stuffed with like a Kimura roll through. Pretty crafty defense. Then in the second round, he lands some lead right hooks, but then he eats a knee and jabs. But he lands the uppercut. But then he gets doubled and he eats some ground and pound in side control. But then he eats some ground and pound in full guard and he gives up his back. And then he gets TKO'd with ground and pound, unfortunately. But, yeah, you know, Jonathan Pierce is tough. Makwan Amirkhani plus 400, Jack Shore minus 500. I like Jack Shore. I like his striking better, and I think he'll be able to stuff the takedowns of Makwan. And I like the move up from him. I think he'll do better as long as he's not moving down. Jack Shore by submission. Plus 250, why not? First fight of the main card, 185 pounds, men's middleweight. Marvin the Italian Dream Vettori taking on Roman, the Caucasian Dolidze. This fight's huge for title implications. Roman's on a hot streak. Marvin's on a one-loss streak. Marvin took on Robert Whittaker his last fight. In the first round, he pressures, but he eats some jabs coming in. Anybody throws some leg, trying to go in for the leg kicks. But then he lands a jab and a left hook in the pocket. In the second round, he walks into a leg and some head kicks, and he blocks mostly. But then he's at range, but he gets pressed and he eats a straight right, though. But then he gets pressured to the fence, and then he eats some more straight rights. But then in the third round, he gets rocked with the head kick at range, but he gets pressed and he eats a right cross. But then he shoots a high single to the fence, and he's not able to score from there. But then he gets blast doubled right at the end there. Kind of demoralizing for him, but it's Robert Whittaker. And then Roman, he took on Jack Hermanson his last fight. In the first round, he gets pressured back and he eats some leg kicks, and he gets blast doubled, but then he grabs under his knee, and he just kind of kicks over to side mount to sweep, and then he just stands up. It's a weird thing Roman does. But then he stands at range, and he eats some crosses with his hands down, though. Get a little sloppy. But then in the second round, he stops the clinch, but then he gets clipped with the hook. But then he gets blast doubled at range in the side mount. But then he hooks the knee again, but he hooks it this time with the arm bar to like an inverted triangle, and then he locks up the calf slicer, has his back, and then just goes to work with the fists, ground and pound with TKO. So I like that. He had that submission potential, but he didn't just sell out for the submission. He used what was available, which was a ground and pound. Got great finish. Roman Dolidze plus 230, Marvin Vettori minus 275. Don't really know how this is going to go, but I can just see Roman, maybe Marvin shoots a sloppy takedown. I can see Roman hitting a submission off his back, maybe catching him. And I just see Marvin being a little too overzealous, and Roman's, striking isn't that great, but I think he'll be able to lock something up with Marvin. I'm going to go with Roman, plus 230. You got to try it. Second fight of the main card, 125 pounds, women's flyweight. Jennifer Maia taking on Casey the King O'Neill, making her return a little over a year off. Jennifer took on Myra Moros her last fight about a year ago. In the first round, she lands some 1-2s whenever she gets pressed, and then she lands overhand rights off of her jabs. But then she eats a counter cross when she's throwing a 1-2, a little too far. But then she gets under the clinch, underhook clinch on the fence, which is really nice control. Then in the second round, she lands some overhands off of her 1-2s, but then Elaine's off of 1-2s, and then Elaine's gets her back gets a mat return, and then in this lands a 1-2 and an uppercut, into hook, but then she eats some counters when she's throwing combination, and some short rights, and then she's able to land a front face kick, really nice way to end the round. Then in the third round, she gets rocked with a straight right when she's throwing her 1-2. Her combination's too long, she eats a counter right, but then she lands a short right hook counter right at the end there, so really crafty from her. She was basically just able to counter over top of her jabs most of the fight. And then Casey O'Neill took on Roxanne Modafferi here last fight. In the first round, she lands some right hooks. Remember, she gets pressed, and then she circles back, and she presses with some 1-2s, but then she eats some counter rights from Roxanne, getting into a little bit of a scrap. And then in the second round, she lands a 1-2. Two-step-in jab, and then she lands a jab and overhand right at range, and then she pressures the pocket with some left hooks and right hooks, but then she gets doubled off of a step-in overhand right at the end there, but didn't really take any damage. And then in the third round, she lands an overhand right, but she gets pressed, and she eats a straight right. But then she sits down on her right hooks and starts really swinging. And then she lands her body kick, gets caught, and she gets taken down. And then she gets clinched toward the end there. Again, no damage. But yeah, it was more competitive than probably Casey thought. Casey O'Neill minus 165, Jennifer Maia plus 140. This is like fringe top 10, 125. I'm going to go with the underdog, Jennifer Maia. Also, didn't really like, Casey coming off of that knee surgery, I believe. I just think Jennifer will be able to counter, and if they get into a grappling situation, Jennifer slick off her back. I just think Jennifer's going to be a tougher test than they think. It's an underdog. I'm going to go Jennifer Maia. Featured fight of the main card, 170 pounds, men's welterweight. Gunnar Nelson taking on Bryan Barberena. Nelson coming off about a year layoff last time in March in London. Nelson took on Takashi Sato, though. Pretty easy fight. First round, he's in a side stance, and he stalks, slides in, slides out. Gets a low single around to the back, drags him down, figure four, lands some elbows, kind of goes to rear naked choke, not really. Then in the second round, he lands a straight right lunge whenever he gets pressed, and then he lunge in with the right hook, and then he gets a single to the crackdown position, finish, and then he gets a side control to the back, gets the figure four, some ground and pound, not really super close on a choke. Then in the third round, he gets has his back to the fence, but then he eats left cross. And then he shoots a blast double at range, gets a figure four on the back, and starts landing some punches. And, easy win for him. Bryan Barberena, he took on Rafael dos Anjos his last fight. In the first round, he defends the initial shot, but he gets clinched to the fence. Has the wizard, but he gets taken down with an outside trip. And then he gets put in an arm triangle in half guard. Then he gets put in a mount, eats some nasty ground and pound from RDA. And then he gives up his back with one hook put in to end the round. Then in the second round, he blitzes forward, but he eats some straights, but he clinches, and he shoots a single, but then he gets re-shot on by RDA, and he gives up his back, gets taken down with an outside trip, gets his back taken with both hooks in, and gets submitted with a rear naked choke. So, Bryan Barberena, plus 295, Gunnar Nelson, minus 360. I'm just going to go with Gunnar Nelson. I don't like the price, I don't like the layoff, but, I think Gunnar Nelson's just going to take him down pretty much. Bryan Barberena might crack him with the big shot, but I think as soon as he does that, he's going to give up his position, and Nelson's going to be able to clinch him up against the fence, get him down with the trip or whatever, and take us back, and it's just going to be bad news. So I'm going to go with Gunnar Nelson here, even though the price is a little high. I don't think he'll submit him, though. Co-main event of the evening at 155 pounds. This one is for the marbles. Justin, the highlight, Gaethje taking on Rafael Fiziev. Justin Gaethje, needs some redemption after the Charles Oliveira loss. He wants to stay relevant in the weight class. And Rafael, he wants to be one step closer to that ever-elusive 155-pound title picture. So we'll see how this goes. Justin Gaethje took on Charles Oliveira, his last fight for the title in May. In the first round, he gets pressed and he eats a right cross and he gets rocked. Then he eats an overhand, but then he drops him with the uppercut. Then he drops him with a left hook inside the clinch, but then he misses the left hook and he gets pressured back and he eats an uppercut and then a jump knee. But then he overswings his hook and he just kind of falls down. Don't know how, it's never saw that before. But then he lands a leg kick in the clinch and then a hook and then an uppercut, and then he backs up and he gets dropped with a straight right, and he tries to scramble with a leg, tries to grab a leg, but Charles Oliveira is all over his back, and then he just gets submitted with a rear naked choke pretty instantly. So he's doing good, man. He was landing big shots, hurting him, but Oliveira was just pressuring him, landing those big shots, and like the first time Oliveira hit him, he got dropped. So I don't know what that was about, I hope his chin's not going, but I mean, he has been in a lot of wars. And then Rafael Fiziev took on RDA his last fight. In the first round, he circles outside. He gets pressed with the left cross, but then he gets shot to the fence, but he's able to keep the overhook. Then he lands a jump knee to a right cross, and he defends a double on the fence, and then he gets shot on from range, though. But then he lands a front body kick, and then a left hook and a right hook. And then the second round, he lands some lead hooks when he gets pressed, but he stuffs a single, but he gives his back up standing. But then he lands a right uppercut to the body and then a left hook to the head. Then he misses the hook and he defends the shot with the whizzer kick into the clinch. But then he eats a lead uppercut. He's kind of standing at range. They kind of go back and forth, and RDA would just catch him in moments where he's just kind of standing idle and gets hit. But then in the third round, he gets doubled to the fence and he stuffs the whizzer, but he gets drugged down, but he pops right back up. Then he lands a straight right and then gets the clinch with the underhook, digs that underhook. Then he lands a jump knee and then a left hook, and then he eats some jabs and some straights at range. And that was a 5-round fight, but I went for 3 because this fight's only 3. So he looked all right. You know, he was kind of landing more of the bigger shots, I would say. And, you know, his wrestling defense is pretty solid. I don't think Justin's going to wrestle too much, but he might. Fiziev minus 240, Justin Gaethje plus 200. I'm going to go with Fiziev here. I just think, you know, Justin's fought for the title twice. He's taken a lot of damage. And Fiziev, you know, I think Gaethje's going to try to just go berserk at him. And I think Fiziev is going to be able to pick his spots. He might be able to crack him with one big shot and really hurt Justin. His chin's suspect to me from the Oliveira fight. So, but it'd be interesting. I'm going to go Fiziev, but the whole fight to go over 1.5, minus 180. I just think it's going to go long. I think Fiziev likes to take his time. And Gaethje, you know, he went 3 rounds with Chandler, but he did go 1 round with Oliveira. Who knows? Over under. I'm going to go Fiziev. The main event of the evening at 170 pounds, men's welterweight for the title. Leon Rocky Edwards taking on Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman. The rematch. This is all just a feel thing for me, man. We saw the first fight. Kamaru got lazy, and Leon was able to take him down with that inside trip, and he wasn't expecting that. Usman kind of like fed into it, and Leon took his back, had him in a rear naked choke threat, but rounds 2, 3, 4, Usman was able to shoot those doubles, get him off the fence, or the snatch singles. He would rip him to the body against the fence, land some nasty hooks. Leon would land on him at range, and he was coming in a little bit. But Usman, whenever he pressured towards him and when he ripped the body, he was really hurting Leon. And then in the 5th round, you know, Kamaru got that takedown against the fence, and they kind of stood it up for inactivity. And then, you know, Kamaru thought Leon was throwing a leg kick, and he went to scoop it like he was doing all fight, and he got hit with the head kick and got knocked out, which was surprising because Leon doesn't really knock people out, and Usman doesn't get knocked out, so don't really know what happened there. But, yeah. I'm just, Kamaru Usman minus 245, Leon Edwards plus 205. I'm just going to go with Usman, man. I just have a feeling Usman's my favorite fighter, and I think it's do or die for him, and I think if he just has to not get hit with that head kick. I know it sounds so simple, but I think Usman's game plan is going to be he needs to pressure him. He needs to hurt him with the body. He needs to take him down. I think he's going to land more vicious ground and pound. That's what he has to do, and Kamaru Usman's my favorite fighter, and I really think he can do that. I thought long and hard about it. I think he's going to get done. I'm going to go with Kamaru Usman. He will be the GOAT. All right, everyone. Thanks for riding with me. Appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all that stuff. I'll have it up down there. Please like, leave a comment, tell your friends, subscribers would help. Let's see some upsets, let's see some violence, and let's see some profits. Good luck, everyone. I'm so excited.